for anybody that has just come in or whatever, I have paper and pens up here if you would like to ask a question. There will be no questions from the floor. They all have to be written down and turned into me. If they are inflammatory or derogatory, they will not be asked. So don't write them because I'm just gonna scratch them off and move them to the side. Yes.
Did you introduce yourself as a moderator?
Oh, I'm sorry. Everybody knows who I am. I'm Faye Binding. I'm the Senior Center Coordinator at the Edinburgh Senior Center in Groveland Township. So there is absolutely no bias on my part. I live in the village, so I'm not,
She is double back.
so that's who I am.
Thank you.
Yes. And I'm a lifelong Ortonville resident, so. And this is being recorded, so.
Well done. That was novel.
So this is a very large. Very good.
My lady has a chair here.
No, I'm good. I'm like, thank you.
So if, we're gonna get started a couple minutes after 7. So what we're gonna do, I'm going to have the candidates introduce themselves and. Okay, I'm gonna ask everybody, if you have your phone on, please turn it off or put it on vibrate. Please, it is a small room and there is a lot of people, so kind of keep the chatter down so that everyone can hear what the candidates have to say and everyone can hear the questions. So the candidates are all going to have like 2 minutes to introduce themselves, tell you what they're running for, and just short synopsis about themselves. So left to right.
Hi, everybody. I'm Jim Christopher. I am running for trustee. I have been around the township. I've lived in the township for a little over 22 years. I've been a trustee, been a member of the tax board of review, the zoning board of appeals, and currently a board member. So I have an interesting skill set. I've been in development, construction all my life. And, hope to be able to contribute a little bit more as we develop township land, which is very, very important to our future here. That's all.
Okay. I'm Teresa Bills. I'm currently the treasurer elected in 2020. I'm running again to remain the treasurer. I've lived in the township for 26 years. I'm a retired teacher. I taught middle school math and science for 28 years and retired and then started working here at the township under Pam Mazik. She asked me if I wanted to work elections, so I started doing that. And then I was the elections administrator for 3 or 4 years, became the office administrator and full-time back in January. And then I ran in 2020. So I've been the treasurer for the past 3.5 years. It's perfect for my skill set. I have a degree in mathematics and education, and I just enjoy helping the residents. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Kevin Scramlin. I'm running for Groveland Township Supervisor. A little bit about me. I was born in Groveland in 1970 and been here ever since. My family's farmed here since 1910, 2 years before the Titanic sank. My wife and I have raised both our boys here, and we both operate small businesses in the township. I've been the owner of Scramlin Farm since 1989. We currently farm about 600 acres. Much of that is right here in Groveland Township. A lot of our customers are also Groveland Township residents. I'm running because Groveland has been my family home for generations. I feel a calling to serve, and I want to keep it a great rural community to live and work in. It's easy to underestimate the amount of time, energy, capital, and planning that goes into farming. I believe what makes me the best person for the job is that experience that I've gained from running my family's business for 35 years. First off, the job of supervisor is to serve the residents, not yourself. As a farmer, I've been a lifelong servant. You might not need a doctor or lawyer once in your life, but you'll need a farmer 3 times a day. As a business owner, I pride myself in being fiscally responsible. I've always written my own paycheck, and if something goes wrong on the farm, it's my own money that I'm out of. Nearly 4 decades of running my own business has prepared me to think carefully about how our tax dollars should and shouldn't be spent. The supervisor must have great work ethic, I may not be able to recite every line of every ordinance in this township, and I may not have been to every meeting in my lifetime, but I do know that if I'm elected, I will work tirelessly on behalf of the Groveland Township people to keep this a beautiful rural community. I'm the first to rise and the last to go to bed. I've cared for sick animals and dealt with bad crop years. If I can farm for as long as I have, I am confident I can be your township supervisor. And finally, I'd like to thank Sheriff Michael Bouchard, Commissioner Bob Hoffman, Brandon Supervisor Jason Rumble, former Fire Chief Marilyn McGee, and Oakland County Farm Bureau for all their endorsements. I hope to get your vote on August 6th, and I look forward to answering your questions.
Hi. I'm Chris Lucas.
Avoid the clapping, okay?
Hello, I'm Chris Lucas. I'm also running for Groveland Township Supervisor. My wife and I have lived here since 1998. We moved here, we raised our 3 children here, and we're still here raising our 2 grandchildren. I retired from the Oakland County Sheriff's Department in 2014. I still work for them part-time. I did some security work with the schools. I ran their armed security when we finally put it into the schools. And as they wanted to expand it, I didn't want to do it with Notre Dame Prep, so I left that job. I served on the school board of Brandon from 2000 to 2008. I didn't run in 08. I came back in 12. I got drafted into it again. You learn a lot on a school board. You learn a lot on any board, how to get along with people that are different than you, that have different opinions than you, different ideas, different political backgrounds, especially in a school board, which is nonpartisan. So you never know what kind of mix you're going to get. I was part of 3 different superintendent searches when you're looking to hire the CEO to replace. It's important. I've been involved in a lot of things here. The toy store at St. Anne's, and it's run by one of my former teachers here, Dan Cronat, and I get to go there and handle the people that need to have a bigger guy handle them, I guess. I don't know. The reason I'm running for supervisor is that you kind of fall into something where you see that there's a need and there's something local, and you know, we look at Lansing and we look at Washington and say, have they lost their minds? And the only place you can really do something is here. Try and have some input into the direction this township goes. You look at our, the business statement where you want to keep this place a community where it's rural and beautiful, and you want to control the growth of it, so that we all have the places that I've been visiting you at. It's an incredible township. We're different. Half of our township is state or county owned. There's only a little bit of room, and we have to all share it. So I saw the opportunity to be involved. I came to see Bob, asked him if he was running. He said he was. So I said I would be around and help him in any way I could. When I retired, I went back to college, got an associate's degree in criminal justice, got a bachelor's in political science. And this all kind of fell together, where I looked around and said, this is great for my skill set, this kind of job, having worked with the board. I started coming to the meetings, got to know all the people on all the boards, ask questions. And it just seemed like a perfect match, and it still is.
Hi, everyone. I'm hoping that I know the questions that were asked, but I think I can hang in there.
Just to introduce yourself and tell them your money.
Sure. Thank you. Yes. So my name is Janelle Keller. I've lived in the community for 16 years now. A little bit about my background is that I've actually been teaching higher education for 20 years. This is the 20th year that I've been teaching in higher ed. I've taught for Central Michigan University, for the University of Michigan, and also for Baker College. In 2020, as we all know, that was an exciting year, which also meant that college looked a little different, and also my course load. So at that time, I actually approached the Township Hall and just asked if they had anything that would be available for me to help out with. And it turned out that they had some elections that year. So I ended up working under Patty Back, who was the clerk at the time. She said, yes, they had some a position available, they would love for some help. So in 2020, I stepped on as the elections administrator and started working our elections here, and then quickly became the deputy clerk. So since 2020, I worked as the deputy clerk here for Groveland Township, and it has been such a pleasure to serve you. In October of last year, Patty did retire, and the board did appoint me as your current clerk. So if I haven't met you, then I would love to at some point be able to introduce myself. So my reason for continuing here is, first of all, it has been such a joy to meet everybody in this community. I love, especially with working elections, oftentimes, you know, it gets cut, it comes up with like the smaller elections. Yeah, I don't vote for that one. And for me, especially being involved, I've come to realize how important it is that really, you know what's going on in your community. You know what is and what isn't happening. And if anybody knows, Renaissance Festival is a big deal around here, and that hits me very close to home. I live very, very close to that. So I just, over the last few years, I've started to really understand how important it is to be involved. And I just really enjoyed that experience. I'd love to serve you, and I'm looking forward to serving you these next 4 years unless anything pops up on me.
So there are a couple candidates that are unable to make it. One is Michelle Kidd, and I had mentioned to every candidate that if they were not able to make it, they could send me a note or a letter and I would read it. This is from Michelle. Hello, Groveland Township residents, neighbors, and friends. My name is Shelley Kidd. Some may know me as Michelle. I am running to return to the office of treasurer, which I have served from March of 2015 through November of 2020. I enjoy helping others and serving our community. Feel free to contact me with any questions or concerns at, and she has her Gmail account. So if you want her Gmail account, you can get it after the forum. And then thank you and God bless America. This one is from Gina Mozzarelli. Is that right? Yes. I am Gina Mozzarelli. I am out of state caring for my mom, or I would be there. Thank you, Faye, for reading this book. I am currently one of your Groveland Township trustees, and sorry, I wasn't gonna read that. I am currently one of your Groveland Township trustees and want to continue in this trustee position to see some of our projects through, continue to question everything, and fight for local control. I have very much enjoyed campaigning over the past few weeks. Going door to door has been informative. If you know me, you know I do my homework. I will not let any concerns mentioned stop with me. Groveland Township has a large project, and it's still much to do in the tech park. The path forward must be managed properly and fully. This can be the equivalent of an annuity for the township far into the future with the right leadership. For local control on more than just utilities, we need to get the repeal on the 2026 ballot. Please sign the petition if you have not already. The county taxes, as for a transportation service we largely do not receive benefit from, provide services many do not want, glyphosate spray, and receive services from our fire department that they do pay for county parks. Too much to elaborate here, but no, these items are being worked on with the goal to benefit our and surrounding communities. Leadership moving forward is critical to local control and local success. We can and should have an expectation of candidates to be prepared and show how they are prepared. We must hire, vote for individuals who themselves have a proven track record of leadership, teamwork, service, honesty, integrity, budget acumen, know and use several forms of and are excellent at communicating and have the personal experience to perform the duties and responsibilities of the job they are applying for. I appreciate your vote and I thank you for doing your homework too, Gina Mozzarelli. So I'm going to give each, when I ask the question, I will direct it to whatever office it is directed to. And then you will have 2 minutes to answer. If you can answer in less than 2 minutes, that's great. I got a lot of questions here. Okay, Mr. Scramlin. Have you calculated the cost of an Oakland County Sheriff contract for Groveland Township? What is the cost differential between Oakland County Sheriff and the Michigan State Police that we currently have?
Well, to start with, you can't calculate a contract until you actually decide what service you're gonna get from them. And when I talked to Sheriff Bouchard, there's different plans that they have, and we can sit down with them and come out with an agreement on what we want and then get a price. Are they more expensive than the state police? Yeah, because we pay the state police nothing. So it don't take anything to figure that out. But it's tough to get an actual price until you know what you're gonna get. If that answered your question.
Okay, this is for everybody. So Jim, we're gonna start with you and we're just gonna go right on down the line. How have you prepared for this position?
Well, I've been lucky enough to be well educated and well experienced in development, construction. I have held about every position that can be held here in the township. I've seen the good, I've seen the bad. More particularly, I brought up tax board of review, some of our neighbors who did not retire well. It's very humbling for them and humbling for the tax board of review people to grant them the hardships. I've been here when developers have come in and tried to snow us. I have been here through research on the fire department and the efficiencies of it, and the heinous BS that happened an election ago. It was directed at our fire department and our fire chief. So I've seen a lot. In addition, probably the biggest thing the township has coming, which Gina alluded to, is the successful development of our tech park. We are fortunate enough to pull that off in the next 10 years. You'll see our taxes, you should see our taxes go down, services go up, and it'll be an annuity for years to come. In fact, if it comes, my opinion is we should plan for growth because it's going to be an unbelievably inexpensive place to live and how we're going to manage that. Good.
Okay. So how have I prepared for this job? Is that the question, Faye?
Yes.
Okay. Well, I've been the acting treasurer elected in 2020, so I took office November 20th of 2020. I've been the treasurer now then for 3.5 years. And in that time, I've been an active participant on the board, learning. I completed the entire Township Governance Academy, which is put on through the Michigan Townships Association. It's for new board members to learn boardsmanship and other things that are really essential to making sure that you know how to function properly within a board and things that are important to the township. I have continued my training by going to all of the Oakland County tax user meetings. They meet monthly down at Oakland County. During COVID, they were meeting virtually, but they've gone back to meeting in person. I have met with treasurers from other communities and bankers pretty much on a regular basis. I was fortunate enough a couple of years ago to be asked to take a leadership position in the Oakland County Treasurers Association. So from there, I facilitated some quarterly meetings, treasurer to treasurer panels, helping others learn things. And then last fall, they elected me president of the Oakland County Treasurers Association for 2024. So I've been serving in that capacity. It's been a lot of fun along the way. And, you know, I've learned a lot from my peers and from completing coursework through Michigan Townships Association. I did also attend year 1 of Basic Institute. I was going to attend year 2, but my father passed away. And so it interfered with that whole thing. So I told the board if I am reelected, then I will complete years 2 and 3 in this next 4 years. But I do have a degree in mathematics and a master's degree in education, and I'm done with my time. Thank you. I got it. That's okay.
Thanks to the information highway, you can catch up on all the information in our township for anybody. So it's easy to get up to speed on the things that are always happening in the township. But I think easily to tell you, I've been preparing my whole life. I think this place is a business to some extent. The other part of it is you. You need to be a people person. You need to have some compassion. You need to understand that not everybody's life is perfect every day. I'm definitely ready for both those parts. The business part, I had an old guy tell me one time, he said, I don't care if you're selling gold bars or ice cubes. Business is business. And to some extent, I think that's true. And with the tax dollars, other revenue that comes in, employees, it's things that I've been preparing for my whole life. I look forward to serving you. Thank you.
Well, when I decided I wanted to run for this, or I wanted to be involved in the township initially, I started coming to the meetings to learn what was going on. And of course, you can go on the internet and read about what's going on, but you can't look face to people and see how they feel, how they're talking. You come to the meetings, and it's not that everybody has to come to every meeting, but if you're interested in this job, that's the best way I know to learn about what goes on here. You come to the meetings, you meet who the people are, what they feel, how they feel about things. The planning commission, you watch the planning commission develop a solution to an ordinance that comes from the BZA, where the BZA has too many variances coming there on this particular ordinance, which tips off the planning committee that there might be a problem with that ordinance. So they start researching that ordinance, they ship it to the board finds mistakes, sends it back, and you're watching the whole thing in person. You can't win more than that on the internet. And then I went to, Dave Martin had his office hours here, there at noon. I know it's me and the other retirees were here, but that's Dave Martin's decision. Lisa McLean had her hours here, I came to that. Patty Back's retirement party. I went to Dave Martin's birthday party in Genesee County. I went to GOP training classes just to learn how to do this stuff. I went to the forum in Clarkston where they allowed anybody who was running for office to come there and speak. They told you 3 minutes. When you got there, it was 2 minutes. And so you had to jam as much as you could into 2 minutes like we're doing tonight. I've been to everything I could possibly go to learn about this. I've been all over this township in the last few months. This is an amazing place. And it's not about going to the meetings, it's what you pick up at the meetings. Heck, my kid even got a financial advisor at one of the meetings. I met him and hired him. So there's a lot of things you can learn at meetings, and I've been to them all. Except for April 8th, I was in Florida and I watched it.
As I mentioned, I actually have been working in the office for quite a few years. I was very, very fortunate that I worked very well with Patty Back. We kind of worked alongside each other. So I can't say that I've been doing the job for the last few years, but really we did work alongside each other with most things. One of the statutory duties of the clerk certainly is elections, and that is something that I have been doing since 2020. I also did complete the Township Governance Academy. So last year, back in, I don't know, February or March, was able to graduate from that. And I know that Teresa had mentioned what that was, but essentially it is a training program designed to teach you how to be in the municipal realm. So it teaches you about how meetings should be run, the finance element, the planning commission, the ZBA. So it really is a great program designed to kind of prepare you for this job. In addition to that, I've done over 70 hours of training through the state of Michigan, primarily for election related purposes. I also have completed years 1 and 2 of Basic Institute. So upon the 3rd year, that would also provide a certification for Michigan Municipal Clerk. I know that it looks different, but in education, I have been very fortunate to teach children and adults, anyone from the age of 18 to, I've had 80-year-old students. And through that, I have really learned how to communicate and work with people. 18 and 80 are very, very different situations. So I really do believe in people and creating those ties. And I do think that it's important if you are sitting on a board, you have to be able to communicate with the people and find out what their interests and their desires are for your community. So again, though education is a little bit different, just those interactions that I've had the opportunity to have in education. Okay. That communication thing.
I should have wrote down. Okay, this is for everybody. Again. Would Groveland build as a rural community, do you plan to reduce acreage required to allow more people to have more than 10 chickens and small? I love this. Not sure if the word is provided. Camps is followed, so more residents can provide for their families. I'm sorry, I can't. read the camps. For small livestock. Oh, that's a livestock. So Teresa, we're gonna start with you.
Okay, so would I consider changing the acreage necessary in order to be able to have more than 10 chickens? That's a great question. So I would entertain that conversation if there was enough interest in the township. I mean, I would have to have more discussion about that. I personally like chickens. I would probably be one who would vote yes on that, but I would have to see what the ramifications of that are. And, you know, because I figured there's a reason why it's set the way it is. So I would have to learn a lot more about that, but that's definitely something that I think as we get, you know, there are a lot of people, myself included, who are concerned about, you know, can I grow my own food and can I have my own chickens that make, you know, I can go out every day, get my own fresh eggs. And I mean, I would like a mini cow, right? Because I would like for a whole cow, but so that would be an interesting conversation. I'm not against it. I would certainly be willing to have that conversation with the board at the time.
This must be a trick question for me. We sell chicken feed, so I wish everybody had 100 chickens. But in reality, yeah, I'm with Teresa. I would totally look at it. And I mean, it would obviously go in front of the zoning board and other things. It's not like one person could say it, but yeah, I think that should certainly be looked at.
Chris?
Well, didn't the village just go through a big battle over chickens? A few years back,
Roosters.
roosters, right? Because that's what when I was knocking on doors, somebody asked me about the roosters, right? And they said you had to have 5 acres. And I'm like, what are you talking about? I hear one in my backyard every morning. And they said, the person behind you has 5 acres. I go, good point. So, the chicken, war that went on in the village, I can't think of what's the negatives to having more chickens if they're on your land. I don't get it. So sure, I'd be able to listen. The rooster thing, I think it was everybody was upset about that. They wanted to have more roosters. Don't eat roosters. See?
I mean, admittedly, I'm kind of along those same lines. I have a sign at my front porch that says, wipe your, or check your shoes for chicken poo. So.
There's the downside.
But again, I also believe in, you know, I would want to just double check and make sure that there wouldn't be any additional ramifications. The biggest thing people would be concerned with is if people aren't taking care of their chickens, is the feces getting into your water system. Roosters can be an issue on small acreage, so I would want to do my due diligence before I give you an official answer on that, but I do love my chickens.
So this is for the 2
Oh, we
supervisors.
missed you.
Oh, I'm so, I always forget something. I'm so sorry.
Can you do me a big favor? Restate the question.
I should read it.
I don't want to read. Groveland build as a rural community, do you plan to reduce acreage required to allow more people to have more than 10 chickens and small livestock, but it does not say livestock. Provided camps is followed, so more residents can provide for their families.
So I read the question two ways. First of all, I love eating chickens. I've never raised them. To draw a line in the sand, I'm gonna say I'm against it, and I'm against it because I don't wanna see the density increase here with people. So if we've gotta lower the minimum lot requirement, that means more people. I think that's why people moved out here, was for certain large minimums, which are approximately 2.5 acres. So I'd have to say no. On the flip side, I'm all for people taking care of their family and enjoying pets. That's the best way I can answer it.
Okay, this is for Kevin and Chris. We're gonna start with you, Chris, this time. Are you interested in going to Oakland County Sheriff instead of an MSP? I'm kind of gonna combine a couple of questions here because it's kind of related to that. If so, what happens to our commitment to the MSP and how will it be paid for? Also, will it go before a vote for the community? And we'll just.
You have 2 minutes on the question.
Yeah. Go ahead, Chris.
I retired from the sheriff's department and I knew when I ran for this position that the sheriff's department's wanting to come into Groveland, something I heard for decades out there. It's been going on since I was in high school out here, but being part of it and seeing the pursuit that they would make. When I got a call that said my opponent was trying to get the endorsement of the sheriff, and he was gonna put it on the ballot, I said, well, I'm not afraid for that because we can't afford it. It's 4 mills at minimum to have the sheriff's department out here, which is on my house is probably $500 a year. On the bigger houses, it's more. It's $168,000 a deputy, and they do have contracts that you can make longer, shorter, more hours. They never go down. And there's always another deputy needed, and then there's a detective needed, and then there's a sergeant needed. And pretty soon you got 16 people working out here. And the minute you bring one deputy in, whether you share them with Rose or you share them with Holly, you can wave goodbye to the state police, who we've had a 30-year relationship with, 30 or 35. And it's not that the sheriff's department is bad. I love the sheriff's department. I spent my career there. State police are good too. Is there a need to spend that kind of money right now? I don't see it. Now, if the township started knocking on my door saying, we want it on the ballot, great. I'm voting no. Put it on the ballot.
Well, just to start with, I didn't go for the sheriff endorsement. The sheriff department came to me. That's to set that straight. There's a lot of variables. Obviously, it would have to go to a ballot. There's no way the board would even have to vote to approve it to go on the ballot. We would have to come up first with a plan and an actual cost of what it would be. Then it would be put on the ballot. As far as the MSP goes, the commitment we have with them right now is putting that building up. We don't actually, to my knowledge, have a contract with them. We have no patrol with the MSP. That's my only problem with the state police. I'm not here to pick on the state police, but we have no patrol with the state police. And I can tell you, I found out today, between last year and so far this year, the Oakland County Sheriffs have been in Groveland on calls 115 times. To give you the right number. And you can go, they'll be glad to show it to you where to go. The minutes are there, what the calls were for. One call was that they had over 900 minutes on. So we need the stats. We need to find out what is actually going on with our police protection. I'm not bad-mouthing the state police, but we're going with people's lives, your livelihood or your family. I think we deserve the stats. And I'm going to do something that nobody else has ever done. I'm going to give you a choice. Is there anybody in this room that does not want a choice? If you don't want a choice, I'm not your guy. Don't vote for me. I will give you choices on things. And when it comes to public safety, I think we deserve a choice. To my knowledge, in this township, we have never had the police on the ballot. I find that hard to believe in a municipality.
This kind of relates to the same thing, so we're gonna go right into that. This is for everybody. If the vote were today, knowing the hiring of the Oakland County Sheriff's Department would raise taxes by at least 5 mils, would you vote yes or no to bring the Oakland County Sheriff's Department to Groveland Township as their police department for Groveland Township? If yes, explain why you would vote yes, and do you feel Groveland Township is unsafe? If no, is your campaign or supporters advocating for this change or of contracting with the Oakland County Sheriff's Department? Janelle, we're gonna start.
Oh, I got the lucky hot seat. That's all right. No, that's all right. Okay, so the question is, if it was on a ballot right now, would I vote yes or no?
Yes, would you vote yes or no for to switch to
Oakland County Sheriff? Okay. So this question, if you, some of you may know this, some of you may not, but all of us candidates were already asked this, would we entertain a ballot initiative for the Oakland County Sheriff for Groveland Township? I assume that will probably be published in the paper, maybe this upcoming weekend. I'm not sure when it's going in. And my answer, and I'm gonna have to give you that answer now, is I am an educator. I need to see the numbers. This is the first time I've actually heard any number. And I've specifically asked for those numbers, just so you know, from the Oakland County Sheriff. I have not received any. I have, however, communicated with our fire department to get an idea of if they're finding that MSP is arriving on scene or not. So I really don't believe that I have enough information. And again, I'm an educator. I'm a learner. I would want to see that before I could confidently give you an answer of yes or no. What I can tell you is currently there is a possibility that MSP will be right down the road with maybe a post instead of a detachment someday, and it could be someday soon. If that's the case, could we have a free police service with patrolling officers? Yes, and that would be free to the public compared to, if you've lived here a long time, your millage may only go up maybe $500 a year. If you are new to this community, you may be looking at minimum of $1,000 or more. I don't know that I can give you a yes or a no without seeing the numbers.
Jim?
Stated a different way, and sorry, it sounds a little dispassionate, and also I don't know where my voice is going. If I had a vote today, in the absence of any business case, you show me the data? No.
I feel very strongly with Janelle, and I've thought this through a lot. It's really hard for me to make a decision without any kind of information on it. I also spoke with Lieutenant Glover, and I tried to get some information from him, and I was told, well, we are there. We're there frequently. We tell people to go talk to the township. We tell them we can't help them. And I looked at him and I said, I've served on this board for 3.5 years, and never once has anybody come to the township and said, I was just at the Brandon substation and they told me they couldn't help me. They told me to come here. Never once has anybody called, to my knowledge, and actually spoke to Bob and said, we couldn't get the help we needed from the MSP. So I asked Lieutenant Glover, do you have a stack of Bob's business cards sitting there on your desk that you can hand people? So when these people come and you have to turn them away, you know, can you hand them this and insist that they come? So I don't have information, and I'm not comfortable voting on something that I don't have information. But because I live in the township, and I mean, I'm just gonna go out on a limb and say, if I really thought there was a big issue with a failure of MSP to respond, and I knew it was gonna cost a lot, like, to me, I would have to say at this point, I'd vote no. Just because I get the calls from people who call in and they say, what happened to my taxes? I just moved here a year ago and they're paying $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 more than what they thought they were gonna be because the last owner had a lower taxable value. So I can't just say yes and add even more onto their tax bills without more information.
I agree with everybody else. Like I say, we've got to make an educated decision. So until we see all the statistics, and I'm curious to see them because I've told everybody, you know, I could probably take this room and divide it in half. And one half would tell me I called MSP and had a great response time, and the other half is going to tell you I called MSP and they never even showed up. And I can tell you from personal experience, no life or death situations. My oldest son's car got stole. 9 hours later, they sent a trooper from Oak Park. My youngest son got an offender bender, never even sent a trooper. Took me 3 weeks to get a police report. Now, my neighbor called them for something and they were there in 5 minutes. For lack of better terms, I think it's the luck of the draw. But I don't think the luck of the draw is necessarily best in that situation. But until we get the stats, I would tell you no at this point.
Chris?
This is a solution to search of a problem. There's anybody out there that wants to have their taxes raised 5 mils, then don't vote for me. Vote for him. Because that's what it means when you get the sheriff's department out here. I've been knocking on doors for 2.5 months and I can name the 5 people who have mentioned police services out here. 3 were in favor of the sheriff's department, 2 were in favor of the state police. It's not the issue that we're dealing with out here. We have the battery energy storage system. We have a light industrial park going in. We have a master plan to follow to continue. We have Bob retiring. We have a new fire chief coming on. The new supervisor's got to deal with all those things without going and creating an issue and seeking an endorsement. So it's still no.
If it's for Kevin and Chris. Chris, I'm gonna ask you first this time. What do you think are the most important issues in Groveland now, and what do you plan to do?
Well, number one, the transition. Replace Bob. Bob's been here since my middle son was born. He's 28 now, or 26. I don't know. Again, we're doing math. Yeah. That's not gonna be an easy thing to do, and it should be a little scary. I sat here the other night, listening to Bob talk to the planning commission and pulling stuff out of the air that he just knew because he'd been here about what it takes to fix this, what it is to that. He and I don't know that. And the transition's gonna be hard. The important stuff is following the township board's lead on this light industrial park. Because as Gina's letter stated, this could be an annuity for the township. And as Jim stated one time, if this thing comes through, hold on to your boots because we're gonna have people moving out here, the taxes will be so low. And the idea that keeping things rural, that's all I hear. I hear low taxes. People moved here from Shelby, they moved here from Clarkston, they moved here from Orient, and it's all because of the taxes. And when I did the sheriff's department, it's $500 at my house. Well, I've been here 26 years. My taxes are pretty low. I talked to a guy the other day, his were $13,000 a year. Multiply that times 5 minutes. No, thank you. But the light industrial park, the battery energy storage system is important right now, but it'll probably be done when he or I come to office because of the timing is such, it's that way. The fire chief, I mean, the fire chief's probably the highest ranking officer we have out here. It's the most important one we have.
Kevin?
I agree with Chris on the industrial park or tech park. I'm sorry, not industrial park. Hey, obviously, the board and everybody's done a great job setting it up and hopefully we can get in and carry it through because it would be huge for our community. But I make no qualms about it. My number one has always been the fire department. I think we're gonna come to a critical hire. It's gonna be the biggest hire, probably bigger than I or Chris for supervisor, is getting the right guy in here. It's the next fire chief. I think he's gonna have to be creative. He's gonna have to be a good leader. We're behind on wages and stuff like that with the townships around us. We're gonna have to do some things. We got a great set of men and women that work at that fire department. We need to keep them and we're gonna have to recruit more of them. And they need the best tools that we can give them. They are my priority. You can say my pet peeve or whatever, but I am behind that fire department.
This is for the supervisor and treasurer. Are you available to be full-time in this position?
Yes, I plan on devoting all my time to this position. Whatever those office hours are, I will be here. There's obviously gonna be a lot of transition in my life, but I'm ready for that transition. So I've had other people ask me, what are you gonna do? If it puts any of your minds at ease, whatever the hours are on that door, I will be here. And if I gotta do something on Friday or Saturday, I will be here. If there's an office meeting at night, I will be here. I've been used to a 24-hour schedule anyway, so I will be here.
Yes, I currently am here full-time. I do sometimes put in time after work or, on separate. You know, if I have to go to a meeting off-site or, you know, on a Friday or after hours, I have no problem with it. I don't have another job except mom and wife. But, yeah, I'm here. Chris?
3 miles down the road's my house, 3 miles down the road's my mom's house. This is kind of right in the middle. I'll be here every time I'm supposed to be here.
This is for everybody. So we're gonna start with. Yeah. Taxpayers' money spent by township chloriding roads, $74,000 last year. What will you do to reduce the amount of chloride dumped per application? I'm just asking these questions.
So that has come before us for at least once in recent history. And it's a constant struggle. Do we do 4 or 5 applications? We've had people lobby. Can they miss my house? It's wreaking havoc on the undercarriage of our vehicles. You know, it's not going out on a limb here. It's not worthy to me of a vote. We've had the Oakland County Road Commission come in, tell us what the metrics are, tell them why they use it, the quantities, concentrations. To answer the question directly, I'm pretty happy with 5 rather than having dust around. That's all I can answer. It's not an odd question. It's just a difficult to be concise.
Sure. I guess probably the biggest thing is if it is a concern, then the board needs to hear that. And it may be more than, you know, one person arriving at a meeting. It may be, if this really is a concern, then the board as a whole would need to know about it. So that, I think, would be the first step. Before I can confirm that I would move forward with making any changes. And as far as I know, now I've only been on this board for a few months, but I have sat in that seat for the last 4 years, almost 4.5 years as recording secretary. And I am only familiar with, it may be being mentioned one other time. So if it is a concern, then you do need to bring it to your board if you don't want the 5 applications.
I was present and I listened to the gentleman from the road commission explaining how they make decisions about, you know, which roads that they're going to do, when they're going to do them. They coordinate with other townships and they have a schedule. So, you know, I've been out here 26 years. It took me 3 years to get used to living on dirt roads. 3. And sometimes I'm still like, oh, these are cool. But when I listened to his presentation about how often they chloride and how much they use and you know, what the mix is and where they put it and how many swipes they take. I mean, it's pretty precise and it's pretty scripted. And so really for us, like Jim said, it's a vote between, do we want 4 applications or 5 applications? And I deferred to the supervisor because he had been here a lot longer and has dealt with, well, this time we had 4 and this is how it went, or this time we had 5 and this is how it went. And the majority of people seem to want 5. There was a time a couple of years ago when the spring was really, really dusty, like super dusty. And I was like, this must be what it's like to not have enough chloride, right? So it's a tough question. I know I can't go behind the truck with a bucket clean, you know, and because it seems like they put a bunch out there and you almost want to, collect it. What would you do with it? I don't even know. So, yeah. Yeah, that's a toughie. I know it is a concern, and it's one of the things that comes with living out here on the dirt roads. So if we had a majority of the people, like if people really want to chime in on that particular issue, please have more of you chime in, because that would give us an indication of what we should do.
Chris?
I was at that meeting as well, and the road commission guy sat there and described what they do, and it was, you had 5 applications or 4, like they've said. And that didn't seem to address the problem that the gentleman had, in that his road is very narrow near his house. And when the truck would make its 2 passes, it would double up in certain areas. And it was really getting soupy for him and his neighbor. And he'd even gone so far as to go down to the neighbors and take a poll on who was getting involved in this mess with their cars. The road commission made it sound like the amount that they put down is the amount that they put down. And Bob had him out here to explain it, and they said they're gonna do 5 applications, we're gonna do 4, but we don't get to tell them how much to use. But now, getting in the office and calling the road commission, we tried, but I heard it from the road commission. We don't dictate to them how much they use. We dictate, do you want 4, do you want 5?
I will preface this by, there is no one here that hates that crap more than me. And it is the most corrosive. I have scraped that stuff off our machinery my entire life. With that being said, everybody is right. You're kind of stuck at the road commission's mercy. I mean, do I wish they had better applicators? Absolutely. I don't drive the truck. And I'm sure if you only put on 4 and the road's dusty, I'm sure Bob's phone probably blew off the hook before he could even grab it. So after this many years of research, whatever has worked for him, I'm sure that's what we're gonna go with. But with everybody, not only this issue, if you have a complaint, the only way anybody knows is if you say it. Nobody up here is mind readers. So if you think that's an issue, don't see them.
We're gonna hit the elephant in the room. Okay, and I have a lot of questions in regards to this, so I'm kind of trying to combine them. It's on the battery storage facility. So I'm gonna try and ask a couple at a time. So, and this for everybody. So we're gonna start with you this time, Teresa.
Okay.
How would you feel about a proposal to relocate the new battery storage facility to the township-owned property, also located near the ITC power lines, and in conjunction with that, what land is it supposed to be located? Where is it being suggested that it's going to be built?
So that battery storage facility is currently going on a privately owned piece of property that the company who is wanting to put it there has contacted the owner and the individual owner of that property and already gotten a lease agreement, land lease. And so they made all those arrangements before ever coming and talking to anybody here at the township and saying, this is what we're planning on putting here. My understanding is that there's a host of requirements that need to be met for these battery facilities to go in a particular location. Some of those requirements are easily met in, just a blank open field. But they do have to be near a power line. They have to be, the power line has to have capacity. So there's requirements. We, as a township board, to my knowledge, can't tell a person, oh, this is what you want to do on your property. Well, no, we prefer you to do it over there on this other piece of property. Like, we don't have that authority, but our township property that we own, may be suitable for something like this, but that's not the property that they chose. And they chose this property for a variety of reasons. They were told about, I think, they were told about our property and hey, maybe you might want to look at this. They are sticking with this property that they have selected. So, there was a question about, would I support a proposal to change it?
How would you feel about a proposal to relocate a new battery storage facility to the township owned property?
Well, if I thought that that proposal had, a chance of actually working, I would work with the people who would want to do that. But, I mean, this company has chosen this property for the reasons that they chose it, and this is exactly what they need. They had the option of looking at our property. They didn't choose it. So I'm not sure that that type of a move could even occur.
I think it's the best idea I've heard, but it's not reality. Teresa's 100% right. The company has got a lease and is probably gonna end up purchasing the property, I'm sure. As Bob has said at this point, who knows what would happen, why it wouldn't happen. It's gonna get shoved down our throat. I think Bob also mentioned at one time our property was mentioned to them. For whatever reason, that's the piece of property that they've picked. I can speak for everybody in this room. There is nobody here that wants it. There's not. But the reality of it is, that's where it's gonna go. And, I give kudos to our board and everybody else that's worked on it, trying to get out in front of it to get us in the best situation we can. I like the question. I wish it was so easy to just walk to them and say, yeah, go over here, you're out of our header. It's not that way.
Yeah, they have, as Teresa mentioned, they have some criteria that they were looking for when they found this piece of land. Ideally, yeah, let's put it out there where the gravel pits are, under the wires out there, make it, it'd be lovely, but it's not, and it's not. This guy sold his land and they came to Teresa and Bob and said, we bought it, this is what we're doing, we want to be good neighbors. And I asked Bob directly, if you wanted to stop this right now, what would you do? He goes, what am I gonna sue the state for creating a law or sue the company for following the law? This is where we are. The company is trying to get along with us. We're trying to put in as many restrictions as we can, which are limited. You go too much, they go right around to the state and you get no say in it. So the board's trying to do as best they can. And like I said, by the time Kevin or I go in an office, it's gonna be done. And there's still petitions out there to overturn Public Act 233. They're around, sign them. We'll try and get on the thing in 26, because it's not even gonna be started to be built to 28 and not operation 29. So it's not an emergency, except for the timing for the board now to create our requests, limited as they are.
I felt like that was a two-parted question. Could you repeat it?
So what land is it going to be located on, and how would you feel about a proposal to relocate the new battery storage facility to the township owned property?
So I think Teresa did kind of answer that already. Where is it going to be? Investor did pick a site that is currently residential property that the homeowner, the landowner, is in a lease with. They've already signed documents, from my understanding, with the potential to own. Ideally, those are going to be located on brownfield, which would be what our tech park property is. So I think it would be great if somehow it would be an opportunity for us to say, hey, go here. I think that would be wonderful. I think for the residents in that area, be perfect for them. And truthfully, it would benefit the township too, for them to put that on the property that we own. But again, unfortunately, you can't tell people what to do with their land or the deals that they've already made. So at this point, unless something came out of the conversation earlier today that Bob had with that company, I don't know that that is an option. Though I will tell you, it has been conversation. Ideally, we know that that's not something that someone wants in their backyard. And I feel for all of you that are near that. I wouldn't want it either. We are doing, well, I am doing what I can, but your planning commission is doing what they can to try to minimize the impact.
Like, just say so everybody. I did offer the township property right under the court, way back when I started walking.
Bob took the words out of my mouth. It was offered to Vesper Energy. It didn't meet all the requirements that they needed. And they were, if I understand correctly, they were unable to negotiate any type of plan with Consumers Energy to utilize the system offered by ITC, which is a transmission line. Questions grounded in the notion from yesterday evening's meeting that we're taking pristine farmland, about 50 acres, and running the potentiality of it turning into a brownfield, God forbid if there's a meltdown or some other catastrophe on the site. So moving it to the township site would be wonderful, since it's brownfield, so to speak, to begin with. Fortunately, it's not gonna happen.
Next couple questions are for the supervisors. Candidates. So we're gonna start with you this time, Kevin. What experience do you have dealing and or negotiating with elected officials? What experience do you have supervising employees?
Supervising employees?
Yes.
Well, I should have had some of my ex-employees here. I had employees up until 2 years ago. So for 28 years, I had anywhere between 1 and 5 guys. So I've heard every excuse known to mankind. But I've been to all their weddings. We're good friends. So I'm confident in working with people and employees. As far as the elected officials go, I've been to Washington. Actually even had dinner. Gordy missed out on that trip when I got to go to the New Zealand embassy for dinner. Been to Washington numerous times, been to Congressman's office, senators, been over to Lansing, been on Capitol Hill. And part of Farm Bureau is we do legislative days and things like that. I have met with, I couldn't even tell you how many elected officials we've dealt with, and some of it's even been on legislation. I mean, it's funny, I think farming sometimes, I go back to Farm Bureau, they're not always my favorite, but it's really a grassroots program. And it's funny, you don't think your voice counts, but there's a lot of times when things happen, you should pick up your phone to your state rep or your congressperson or your senator. You might be surprised the reaction you get. So don't ever give up in your voice.
Yeah, I was a supervisor for like 15 of my 25 years at the sheriff's department. I supervised undercover crews of 5 to 7 guys that did raids on various places. I supervised buildings that had 50, 60 employees, different shifts, 200 inmates, things like that. It's they were being a supervisor is really easy until it's not. And so when things are going well, it's an easy job. It's when things aren't going well, it'd be tough. As far as elected officials, like I said, I sought out Dave Martin when I started coming to these meetings, and Lisa and our local reps. And when I went to the BGYA thing, I ran into Bob Hoffman there. I'd never met him before, and introduced myself. And but the elected officials I deal with the most were the ones who were right here for the last year and a half, 2 years, whatever it's been. And they've been very receptive. And I find that if you want to find out something here, and probably anywhere else, you gotta go ask. You can't call them, they're not being transparent when you never ask. Go to their office and ask. Their doors are all open every day. You walk in here, they're all open. They've been that way since the first time I walked in.
Janelle, this one's for you.
No.
What makes you a better candidate now than when you ran for office in 2020?
Oh, you mean, this is for Teresa?
Well,
I'm on the ballot.
yes, Teresa, I am so.
Definitely go for Janelle.
Sorry.
So what makes me a better candidate now
Now than when you were.
than when I was in 2024? Oh, well, now, let's see, I have I was elected in 2020 based on my credentials at the time, which were master's degree, bachelor's in mathematics, 28 years of teaching experience, worked for the clerk for 3.5 years, worked as the office administrator for a year, was cross-trained in all areas, have a very professional leadership style, lots of experience. I can empower others to succeed. I know how to teach people how to do things. Since becoming elected, then I have gained all kinds of skills in the treasurer's office. In addition to the things that I've already kind of mentioned, I am the representative for Groveland Township at the BGYA meetings. That's the Brandon Groveland Youth Assistance. They selected me to take over for Miss Fran. If you know Miss Fran, that's hard shoes to fill. But I took over for her doing the youth recognition ceremony annually. And we recognize hundreds of students in Brandon for their volunteerism. That's a wonderful. I have listened to things that the residents have wanted. I put into place the online version of how you can see your tax bills. So it's called BSA Online. And some of you may have used it, but you can look at your tax stuff for free. Other places like mortgage companies and title companies, they have to pay, like pay to play, so to speak. They pay like $5 to do it. And so that's free to our residents. That was not in place, but it was one of the things that people said to me when I was out knocking on doors in 2020. I wish I could see my taxes and I don't get a bill. So that was something that I did in response to that. I guess I've streamlined a lot of processes, tried to, become more efficient here. And I like to think we have one of the friendliest treasurer's offices in years.
Okay, supervisors, candidates. Start with you this time, Kevin. What experience do you have in developing budgets, and have you ever managed the departmental budget? How large was it?
Well, our business is a departmental budget, I guess. Yeah, our farm, we run off a budget. Budgets are budgets. I mean, obviously, there's gonna be a lot of education when I make my first one here, but that's what, there's a lot of help here for it. I don't think I'm gonna be the only person doing it. But I mean, a lot of the farm stuff we've done, there's times it's over 7 figures. I'm not scared of numbers. As far as a budget is just simply an outline so you know where you're going with what. So in your mind, you just gotta get your priorities, figure out what has to be done each year. And if there's stuff left, then we go with that as to where we can go with it. But I'm not worried about coming up with a budget.
Chris?
Well, I don't want to say I did the budget for the school board, but we had a budget. We did it for 13 years, and you have to make tough choices. Some years you got to cut things, some years you're going to add things, and you don't try to just have some left over. You try to develop money left over to be used for improvements and things like that. But to say that I ran the budget, I didn't. I was one of 7 people that took care of the budget and used our finance person to help us in that way. That's what you do with this board, is there's 5 people that all work in tandem or together to make this thing work.
This is another one for supervisors. I'm concerned about taxes. What is your stance regarding law enforcement in our township, I'm sorry, that's. Let's try this. How many meetings do you attend per year currently? Chris?
All except for April 8th. The one that Bob announced he wasn't running on in Florida.
This year, are you counting just board meetings or planning commission? All
Yes,
sit
they're
down?
good with numbers.
It just says meetings.
Yeah,
It doesn't say.
I think the planning commission and everything, I've been to 9 this year.
Everybody. So we're going to start with Janelle.
This time for me.
How do you feel about the current state of the fire department? What plans do you have to improve it?
Current state of the fire department. I think that the fire department is currently operating on a very challenged budget. That's how I would describe it. If you don't know, my husband is one of the firefighters, so thank you to all of you. I think that's a very hard question for what I plan to, was the question to change it? Is that the question? Was it to change it?
How would you improve it?
Okay, so first of all, I don't know that it would be my responsibility necessarily or the board to change it. The biggest thing that I would be a part of is making sure that whoever is hired is capable of leading that department so that it can be successful. So I can't really say that my personal responsibility would be to modify or change that. Certainly maybe provide suggestions here or there if needed, but really the goal would be to hire someone who's capable of doing that there to make sure that they can be successful for our community. Yeah.
I would like to see more diverse staff, certainly technically correct, technically schooled. I would like to see more engagement between the township board directly with the firefighters somehow. I feel while there isn't any polarization, I don't feel that there's enough dialogue between the two camps. So I worry about chemistry in that regard. We all know we've got a fire chief coming up. That person is going to be a combination of technical skill. He's going to be a boss. He's going to be a combination of technical understanding, disciplinarian, teacher. All of those are going to affect the morale, affect the retention, affect who we're going to hire. Those are the things that I say that I feel that the fire department, those are the challenges that I think we need to face. I'm not sure I'd change anything.
I'm gonna have to agree with them. I think that the fire department does a fantastic job. And I try to work with, you know, the chief's budget. When he comes to budget meetings in February and he works with the board to establish that budget. You know, we get to ask questions at that time. We get to say, you know, well, what do you think about this? Or he explains what he's, you know, gonna change or leave the same. We've supported his decisions. I've supported his decisions. I know that when he leaves, we're gonna definitely have to, you know, find someone to replace him that's gonna be able to say, here's what we have, here's what we're looking to go towards, how do we make it from here to here? And, you know, my job is to help support that happening, whatever that might look like. So I'm not sure, I don't have a crystal ball, I can't look in the future and see what it is, but it's important to hire a really good fire chief. And I'm hoping to bring in some, you know, help in doing that, right?
I agree with everything that's been said here. I don't think there's a lot that needs to be changed per se with the fire department at this minute. But yeah, the chief hire is just gonna be crucial. And then going back on that, it's gonna be our board job to back that chief up and get him the tools he needs to keep it at a high level or a higher level. You know, it's one of those, you can't ever say anything's good enough when you're dealing with saving people's lives, right? So as far as this board goes, I think it'll be our job, not only to make sure we get the right fire chief, but the support to all the firemen and him to like I say, just take it to a higher level.
Yes.
I like what Janelle said about the budget the fire department works on. I heard it described to the guys I asked, bare bones. And the millage is coming up, as well as our election on August 6th. The millage is, they're keeping it at 3.5. And that's gonna be really tight. they've been tight. But there are some positive things that this board, that's the current board, I think gave 3% raises to all the full timers last year, plus $5,000 bonuses. So they have addressed the pay difference. That it doesn't mean that that's enough to retain people. Because what happens is you come to Groveland, you get trained, and you go look for a higher paying job. And there's just no way around that. You bring the people in, you have to train them. And if they find a better job, they leave and they go there. We can't compete with municipalities like Shelby Township or Rochester Hills or Clarkston, Independence, for example. But I have been told by firemen that I talked to it from other departments that the agency is still a good agency, and they do have some great new equipment that the board purchased with the ARPA funds that they got from the federal government. So they're pretty well equipped right now, and the chief is going to be a tough call. You got to find somebody to be able to balance everything that's going on there.
Jim, we're gonna start with you. This is for everybody. Are there any non-tax ways you think the township could generate revenue?
Yeah, we do it now in the form of leasing certain areas to cellular companies, signage companies. Biggest one is gonna be the tech park. It's not, may cost us some upfront money, but the projections, everybody, are enormous. That's the obvious answer.
Janelle?
I agree. The tech park is a wonderful opportunity for us to have some income for many, many years to come. It may take some time for that. In the meantime, certainly, I know that the board has done a really good job, and actually even in the fire department, of looking for different types of grants that we can bring in. Oftentimes those aren't, giant grants, but they're great for smaller projects, or even it may be fire gear for the fire department. I think major revenue stream would be the tech park, as Jim mentioned.
I mean.
Jim again.
Oh, I'm Jim, okay.
Could have been Janelle.
Obviously, the tech park is the one that keeps getting brought up, for obvious reasons. A couple things I have thought about, I don't even know if they're possible, but we'd have to look into it. The Renaissance Festival, we all know that. We get the joy of having the parking in our township, and so we kind of take all the pain, and that's about it. I will say the planning commission, everybody did a great job. Last year was a lot better. I'm sure with I-75 construction, the next 2 years, it's gonna be a pain in the butt. There's no way we can do anything about that. But I wonder when we get their permit, or if they come in front of the board, if we could put in an ordinance or something at some point where we get a percentage of their parking or something that they charge now. In my mind, that place is a cash cow. Maybe I'm wrong. We get all the traffic. Maybe the residents should get a little bit of a kickback. Another one I thought about is Groveland Oak. They pay no taxes. We know that. We have some other campgrounds in this area. What if we went and put on a $5 reservation fee? Anytime you go to a hotel, you pay a resort fee, most places you go. What if we went to Groveland Oaks and in the state, maybe the KOA? I don't even know if it's possible, but I think it's things we need to look into. Make it just a $5 reservation fee. I don't care if they're there 10 days or 1 day. But I think if we took some of that money, if we could get it and add it up at the end of the year, maybe it pays a fireman's salary. Maybe it's something that helps the fire department that's not coming out of your dollar. It's just some ideas I had. Obviously, I'd have to do a lot more research on it, but they're ideas.
Well, we do get income from the cell tower leases. We have the billboard out on I-75 that's on our property, up just north of Grange Hall Road. We have a purchase agreement for a piece of property that is back to back with the tech park that the purchaser pays us monthly, and then that will continue paying and for another 10 years, I believe. We have some grants. We can spend less money and try to streamline some costs, and that saving money is like the same as earning money, right? And we could sell some property. I don't think we really want to do that, but that is an option. We do get a large chunk of money from the state from, it's called revenue sharing, based on what people spend out just anywhere in the state. It all that sales tax, I don't know the formula, goes into a big pot and they say, this is much for Groveland. So you guys go out and spend more money in the state. And that will raise our revenue sharing. It's about the only thing I can think of right now.
Chris?
What Teresa said is right on as far as the income streams. Everything that this board has been able to do to generate income is coming less on our backs. The township runs on less than 1 mil. Our biggest expense is the fire department, 3.5. So anything that you can do that doesn't affect our lifestyle and our up north feel and all that to generate income, that's not us, is a good thing. And there are things, Bob had one thing where he had a gravel place wanted to pull their gravel. He made a deal with them to donate the top gravel for the roads to us for 8 years. It's $40,000 a year that he saved by what they saved, the board saved by doing this. And we're halfway through that. In 4 years, there's another 40,000 added to the budget. But that was 8 years of a good deal that he made. You have to be creative like that, and it's not easy, but you have to think outside the box, because that's what Bob's done to create some of these income streams. And we take them for granted because they've been here and you have to be renewed, all that. But it's I heard it called make it a buck for the township, when the reality is it's a buck that we don't have to pay. We can generate something like that. It's much better for us.
And Rachel, going to be persistent. What do you believe are the most important functions of the Groveland Township supervisor?
Functions? Depends what meeting you're at. But seriously, the supervisor starts the budget process, runs the meetings, is your legal representative. It's the person that is the secretary for the board of review, appoints people on the councils, handles probably the complaints the most, probably come to the supervisor. It's you have to be the record keeper for the supervisor, and there's all kinds of little minutia in there of jobs. But the reality is that when you're running this meeting and you're talking to residents, you're talking to the people in the town, you have to listen. You have to be able to hear things you don't like. You got to be able to take things not personally, and help people understand what's going on, so that they can then maybe be an ally in fixing whatever the problem is. But getting along with the rest of the board is important, and getting along with people that are your neighbors is another thing. That's not a role, that's the way the supervisor should be.
Yeah, I mean, Chris is right on a lot of the things. Obviously, the budget meetings, board review. But on a more personal note, I think Chris touched on it. I think it's a supervisor. I don't want to say you're here to do it all, because you're not. Obviously, there's a board and a great clerk and treasurer that we have in the township. But you are here to take a lot of the crap, and I think there's times you probably do that so that the rest of this township can function well. And I think you do have to have compassion and be understanding. I also think you got to be on the lookout for what's best in this people this township 24/7, whether that be the business deal that comes about or whatever comes to your door. I think you're going to be on task basically 24/7 to hope to do what's best for them. I think the how should I say, the business part of it's probably the easy part of it. And I've read a lot of the Michigan Township stuff, and Bob said it meetings ago, and I didn't realize it really until I started investigating. He said, you could have 50 township supervisors and nobody does the job the same. And after I've read it, I can see why he says that, because if I'm elected, I will not do the job like Bob. I'm just a different person, and I don't think Chris would do the job exactly like Bob. We're all different people. I think the bottom line is to do your best and look out for what's best for this township.
Okay, that's what this supervisor candidates again. Person that
Condense.
that's so it's a long read, but Okay, have you met with the current supervisor to discuss what his job entails, who he meets with at the county and state level? And also, have you met with current township employees, both appointed and elected, to find out what their job consists of? And to get to know them in order to facilitate a smooth transition?
I have met with every board member and many of the firemen. I have not met with Bob. I wouldn't even lie to you, I have not met with Bob. And to be honest with you, here's my thoughts on that. If I'm elected, I got 106 days from the time I'm elected to the time I go in. And the minute I'm elected, I will be glad and will make contact with Bob. And I hope Bob spends as much time with me as he can. Because I'm gonna need to learn, no different than anybody would need to learn. The way I feel about it now, and just be truthful with you, A, I've still gotta make a living, so we're working quite a bit. But B, I don't wanna take up a bunch of our supervisors' time that's on our dime, doing business, to teach me stuff that I may or may not need. I would never bring anybody to work and take and train them all day to bale hay if I didn't think they were gonna stay and bale hay. So until I'm elected, at that time, I will move forward with Bob, but I have met with everybody else.
I've met with Bob many, many times. I have a lot of questions and he answers them all. And I've never had an issue with Bob giving me what I think is truthful answers, direct answers, explaining the both sides of it. I've been to his home. I was there Friday night for an hour, talking about all the stuff going on right now. And I just stopped in to say hello. I was there an hour. He's really easy to get along with. From what I heard before I met him, it was just some kind of ogre. And you want to get there. You ask him a question, he gives you an answer. And you ask him another question, he gives you the same, another answer. And you learn very quickly just to ask him. So, and yeah, I've met with Janelle and Teresa. I'm in and out here all the time the last couple of years. And like Jim, I didn't know Jim until I started coming to the meetings, and we ended up having dinner together one night. I walked in and his wife were there, and we had dinner. Gina I've known for 20 years, since we were on the school board together. Her husband, Brian, and my wife and I were all good friends. And losing Brian a few years ago made it a little tough, but we kept Gina, so.
So you're starting to reset. What will the township do to address abandoned and dilapidated property? House across from me is a wreck and abandoned 7 years.
Abandoned and dilapidated property, what will the township do to address it?
Yes.
Well, we do have an ordinance process and we do have an ordinance officer. I believe that there are some rules and regulations that the ordinance officer is supposed to be following, so unfortunately, we want to see our complaints handled fairly quickly, and the process does not always allow for that. So my understanding is that as long as the resident, the property owner is making attempts and making progress at cleaning up things, then it's like the clock starts over again. And so some folks have gotten pretty proficient at doing a little bit, making it look like they're getting it taken care of, and then the officer goes back out and, it's okay, yep, you're making progress. So I know there's frustration about certain things. I mean, I guess for me, it's about the ordinance officer and how well the ordinance officer is out and about in the community, taking care of this and really sticking to the schedule, making sure that they are following up, and ultimately the ordinance officer answers to the supervisor. So I would hope that whichever incoming supervisor, gets here, that they would be able to take a stronger position on, maybe working more closely with the ordinance officer, finding out you know, is there something that the supervisor can do in addition? I don't know. I know it's a process.
I will guarantee you any call that I get about it, we will look into. I promise you that. Teresa's right. You get into all the ordinances, excuse me, and stuff like that. But we have rules in place and they need to be enforced. No, I'm not gonna lie to you. I am not going out to drive around to look for blight. Nobody's ever done that in this township, and if I'm elected, we are not doing that. But if you have a complaint, that's what we're here for, is those complaints, and we need to enforce those rules.
Well, I went to that house and I walked around it. It doesn't have a pig. There's no propane, no gas in there. There's no glass in the windows. There's clearly nobody living there. And I did a little research into the property. It sits on another person's 60-acre, it used to be a horse farm, I think. And I asked Teresa if there was a complaint filed on it, and she said there was, and it was unfounded, or the ordinance officer felt that there wasn't an issue.
You asked Danielle, not me. Danielle keeps track of
Oh,
all
you
this
look it
stuff.
up.
Danielle.
Okay, maybe we'll figure it out. But so I going to the house and seeing it, and I'm not an ordinance officer. I know that we share ours because there's not enough full-time work to have them. But I don't know how you say that house is lived in. It's just, but the person who owns it apparently has classified it as that they some PRE or whatever it's called, PRE. So they get, they're playing a game, and it clearly is a problem. And like anything else, there's a level of discipline that starts with this and this and this and this, and eventually you gotta take some action.
Sure. So I guess the first thing would be, is it dilapidated? Is it a hazardous building? If that is the case, then we do have rules in place to make sure that that is taken care of. If it is a building that someone owns but isn't around to take care of or doesn't mow their lawn, we do have blight ordinances. We don't have necessarily regulations on your lawn care maintenance. It makes it a really gray area, and I don't know the exact house. It sounds like there's something specifically. I do remember hearing about a specific incident, where I believe taxes were still being paid. It makes it really tricky. If the home is, if they're paying their taxes and the person owns the home, it makes it a really gray area. And even with an ordinance officer, it would be difficult to really do anything about that. And if any of you have ever owned a second home where you maybe didn't attend or go to for a while, I'm sure you can kind of see how that may look after a few years. I assume that's what we're referencing. I'm not sure. So if it's dilapidated, if it's a safety hazard, 100%, we have regulations and rules in place to remove that building.
This is a little bit of a touch point for me because I tend to be a neat freak. And also have a temper about certain things, so the picture that you're painting, the fellow people out there are painting is one of a combination of laziness and blight. I would probably take a very aggressive stance and try to use township leverage and condemn the damn property to get their attention.
Maybe a two-parter for the supervisor. I'm sorry, I'm trying to combine because there's so many. Kevin, we're gonna start with you this time. When would paving and Oak Hill be completed between Dixie and M15? When will Wildwood be paved? And can you describe the Dixie overlay plan if you agree?
The Dixie overlay plan, as far as development on Dixie? As far as the pavement goes, I'm just gonna give you my favorite answer. I'd probably tell you never. I think at some point you may get a mile of Wildwood paved. I mean, that all goes into road funds and everything else. So about what, once every 5 years, we'll get a mile paved here in the township? By really nobody's fault other than the way the system is. As far as paving, I wish they paved Oak Hill Road tomorrow morning. I'd be tickled, but it's not gonna happen. As far as the Dixie one, I did,
Dixie overlay plan.
Do they mean the bypass? Like, how they're trying to make it more, like more businesses on Dixie
Oh,
and
I'm
stuff
sorry.
like that?
so you're talking about the development?
Yeah. I think that's what she.
Well, I think the easy answer for that is we're gonna have to take the development in this township as it comes, and it's gonna come. No different than the best project. We don't get to pick everything. I'm sure people think at the township, you get to go out and pick a piece of property and say, I'd love to have McDonald's there. That's just not the reality of it. There's a township board, there's a master plan, there's zoning. So when that development comes to Dixie Highway, I think we need to do our due diligence to get the best things in there for the township people.
Chris?
Repeat the question.
I was gonna say.
Yeah, yeah.
When will paving and open?
Oh, paving, I was thinking of the Dixie thing.
And then also the Dixie overlay.
Well, the paving is something that the road commission does. And what I've been told is that they alternate between this area to this area to this area to this area. And there's three people that donate money to that, our money comes back to us. The road commission, the county, and the township. And then what they managed to do on Barron was they saved the money for a few years so they could do the whole road. But the road commission usually comes and offers you a couple of options. You want this one, you want this one. And then you have to find out which one's best for the most people and pick one. As far as it being Wildwood, I read somewhere on the road commission website, that was on the list down the road as one that they wanted to pay. But again, we were talking about probably a mile a year and it's way down the list of their priorities at road commission. The Dixie overlay, well, you start by knocking down that yellow building, but having some places where you could put new businesses. But it's a great area to develop if you can get the right things in there, and hopefully the tech part lead to other things, which can lead to other things. Only 4 together?
Three. It all has to do with the battery thing, and this is the end of the battery thing. We're gonna start with you, Teresa.
Okay.
We're including you in this.
Oh.
So, they would like to know how you would have handled the proposed battery storage facility development different. What do you think of the planning commission and the special meetings regarding the battery storage? And how will you handle the money from the best batteries? Will it be split with the fire department?
So the money from the best battery, that is, yeah, I mean, it's supposed to be used by the township for township expenses, right? The fire department is part of the township, so obviously, whenever we split, delinquent taxes come in, they get split according to the millages percentage wise, so 78% goes to the fire department, 22% stays here. I don't know how it would split something like that, because I think it would just depend on the board at the time, because again, that money isn't even gonna come until if we do qualify, if we get the ordinances done in time and we actually qualify for some of this money, it's not paid to us until they start building it and until it's operational. So that would be 2028 or 2029. Whoever is on the board at that time is gonna have to make that decision about how that money will get divided up and used. I may or may not be on the board at that time, right? And then I can't remember the first part of the question.
What do you think about the planning commission?
Oh, the planning commission. So special board meetings, that's kind of tricky because we follow the Open Meetings Act, and Janelle can explain it better than me, but the Open Meetings Act has requirements for how long or how early something has to be posted. Special board meetings, my understanding is, these are things that happen because they have to happen in a fairly quick time period, and they need to be arranged at a time when the most people who need to be there can be there. You can't say ahead of time, it's gonna be at this time or that time until you actually can arrange it. So we do our best to try to accommodate all the board members that have to be there or any special presenter. And then we, we post it according to the Open Meetings Act.
I hate to do this to you, but can you repeat it?
Sure. How would you handle the proposed battery storage facility development differently? What do you think of the planning commission and the special meetings held regarding the battery storage? And how will the money be handled from the best batteries for the split with the fire department?
As far as how the board has handled it, I think they've done an outstanding job. The planning commission too. I think anybody that has been to those meetings, I think people forget that everybody on the planning commission, much like I didn't, has a life. They have a job, and these people have taken a lot of time and done a lot of homework. And I think you gotta give them a lot of credit for that. The only thing I would tell you that I would have handled differently, and Jim actually brought this up at the last township board meeting, I think we're gonna look further into it, is either emails or text messages, something to get notifications out to people faster. And I think that was a tremendous idea. I think people need to know as soon as we can know, and the best thing kind of came about that fast. As far as the money goes, if you ask me, that's gonna go to the fire department. Will all of it go there? I don't know, but might be a spot to get a new truck or something on somebody else's money.
So we're talking about the best program and the money. Or how would you handle it?
And how would we do it differently and about the special meetings?
The only thing I would have done differently was Jim stole my idea, was have it an email blast where you could put something out. But Bob had to go to the other township supervisors and ask them if they had heard anything about this, to gather some information. And once it got in the paper, then it was out there, but everybody was pretty upset that it wasn't done quicker. I think that he did it in a way that he thought was best for all of us. As far as the special meetings, we have to be clear what a special meeting is. Special meetings would be where Jim and Gina and everybody gets paid. Some of the meetings aren't special meetings. The ones with the best system, people were there, our entire planning team and our board, they were all there. They weren't getting paid. They're just like us. But sometimes the meetings are dictated by the people that you're bringing in to talk to us on what time they can be. There are only like, I think, 5 special meetings in the last 3 years. The ones that with the best thing aren't classified as that. I guess it's context. The money, it's supposed to be used for township stuff, and 2029 knows what kind of issues we're gonna be having there. To say what you're gonna spend it for now doesn't make any sense.
Okay, this is for everybody. We're gonna start with you, Janelle. Do you plan to add services that raise taxes?
Oh. I don't plan on doing any of that.
What was the question?
Yeah.
Do you plan to add services / programs that raise taxes?
I mean, I guess the simplest answer is no, not right now, that I'm aware of. I do not have any plans in mind, any services, additional services to provide that would raise taxes. If there are additional services that I think would be valuable to our community, then certainly I would try to do that within the budget that we.
We can't say it. Sorry, I really can't say it any better than Janelle. I can't even think of something that we would add right now. Again, dispassionately, bring it to the board. If it makes sense, we can vote on it, or we can put it out to the people to vote.
I'm gonna agree with that.
No, I think that's 100% right. It would have to go to the board and then to the people. So none of us up here have the power to push a new one on you.
Chris?
No.
Okay, so this is another one for everybody, and this time we're going to start with you, Jim. We continue to pay more taxes each year because the assessment goes up. why not reduce the tax rate on my house? People need a tax break, not more taxes instead.
Okay, I may not be accurate on this. However, we have very little latitude in what property values are, it's assessed by the county. People can come in and lobby to the tax board of review. They have to make a logical, dispassionate numerical case to lower their taxes. But we have very little latitude on that, short of lowering the millage on the fire department. So I have to defer to Teresa on that. She's my lifeline with that.
Okay, so once a person has been living in their house for, I'm gonna say, any more 2-3 years, the difference between their taxable value and their assessed value is pretty, it goes up, more than what a tax appeal board is going to be able to reduce anything by. So I was on the tax board of appeals before I became treasurer, and people would come in and they'd say, hey, I got my taxable value, I think you've overvalued it. They have to be able to present comps and things like that, that legitimately would be able to say, yeah, maybe we are a little too high or maybe not, but we don't get to set those things. There's rules in place from the state, and our tax board of appeals is trained in all this. So the only thing we can do is control how much we're assessing for millages. So the township itself is 0.9557, and the fire department is currently, well, unless we pass the millage, currently 0 because we have no millage, but we'll pass it in August, hopefully, and then it'll be 3.5. We can fiddle with those numbers, but we can't change your taxable value of your home. The state is gonna raise your tax 5% or the rate of inflation, whichever is lower, but the value of your home can change according to the market. So if you've been in your home for a while, trust me, your taxable value is, look at your tax bill, your taxable value is probably substantially lower than your assessed value. So even if you came to the tax board of appeals, there's nothing they can do, because you'd have to really show that your home was worth way less, and that's probably not gonna happen. So we don't have a whole lot of control over it.
I gotta follow the treasurer. No, it's funny, my mom was a treasurer for 26 years, and I've heard these same conversations in our house. We really don't have zero say over it, so. I wish they'd lower mine. But it all goes back to the state and county.
You know, it's kind of funny the agreement with everybody else that we don't have a whole lot of control over it. But there's such a difference in how we're taxed up here. When I look at what my taxes were, I've been in the same place 26 years, Without compared to somebody who built 3 years ago. I mean, mine are really low. And when you're talking about adding mills on and stuff like that, it affects me, but I told you about the person who had a $13,000 tax bill, and I said, how in the world is 2.5 acres, big house? How in the world is it $13,000? He went to the board of review once and got it dropped to 11. But I was told, I asked one of the retired clerks, how does this happen? She said that you can go to that board of review every year. And you can go there and try and make your case to have them be lower. And some people just take their taxes and pay them and don't even do it. So it's one of those things where it's like when you get a ticket, go to court, you never know. But if you got your taxes too high, come to the review, try it every time you can.
I mean, I don't know that I can really add much more than what's already been said, but I would echo, I sat on that board of review for a couple of years. It's only a few people in here in the assessor. They're wonderful people. Bring your comps to show if you think that you are being taxed inaccurately. That really is your best bet for having any changes in your current taxable value.
Okay, this is for everybody. It's I would like each candidate to discuss their resume with the community and how their individual assets generalize to successful leadership of our township. Important points of interest should include education and skills, previous community service, work history, notable accomplishments, Ability to manage a $2 million budget, ability to create and maintain effective teams, examples of leadership, and remember, you only have.
I was gonna cut you off. No,
They already.
Yeah, it's redundant.
Yeah, okay.
It's well worded though.
yeah, A plus.
Okay, this is for the supervisors. Kevin, we're gonna start with you. Please tell us your experience dealing with government rules and regulation as it relates to managing a budget.
Government rules as it comes to managing a budget? Yeah.
Yeah.
Moving on.
You can study the rules.
Yeah.
Okay, this is for everybody, and we're gonna start with you, Janelle.
Again.
You commit to sharing a quarterly source and case of fund statements so that citizens can see where the money is going.
Well, at every board meeting, we have, sure, no. If you are concerned about what the township is spending money on, it's actually posted online every single month at our budget meetings. We show you every single check that goes out of this office and all money that comes in. Teresa also does, every single month. She has all of our funds and how much is in every single one of them. So I guess that's probably the simplest way for me to put it is, it is available to you every single month. I guess was the question maybe for a quarterly synopsis?
So quarterly sources in case of
Okay.
fund statement.
If, I guess my best answer for you, if you would like to see the numbers at any time, please come into my office. I am happy to pull you a report right then and there. And we can put a window, any dates that you like in there, and we can sit down and look at them together and I can help you to understand what those reports mean.
I just want to make a comment to the audience. Annually, we have a CPA organization that specializes in municipalities that audits our books, and those are always good. I'm sorry, what'd you say?
Will you commit to sharing a quarterly source, but you are not.
Well, it's kind of, so take the question, I believe it what it is, you can come in at any time with an appointment. It's available every month by township meeting. And last year's audit's probably available on an hour's notice if staff isn't busy. So, yes.
Yes, every board meeting, there's a packet, it's got a revenue and expense report, it's got a detailed list of every check that we write. It'll say, you know, what fund it came from, how much it was. We approve accounts payable. I provide a quarterly report. It's, well, actually, it's more of a 1/3. I got 4 months in a row on it every month, so it's easy to trend where the investments are and how much money we have. But the spending, a quarterly report of how much, where we spend money would be pages long. Whereas you can put, you know, a quarterly report of how much we have in each account on one page. But the quarterly report of where all the money is going, you know, it's in every board packet by detailed amounts, and it's pages of it. So I would recommend starting there. Take Janelle up on her offer to explain it. I'll be happy to explain my end of it.
Well, the answer is yes, but I think they already do that, so I don't think anybody's trying to hide anything. I think if you want the answer, just look for it. They'd be glad to help you.
Yeah, it sounds like a Teresa question. Because, you're like, sure, what is it? But, I know that the questions come up I looked for the budget online today and I couldn't find it, but I had 10 minutes to look it up. And, I think it's on there, but it should be on there. I know you go to the school board, you can pull their budget up, doing either of the schools or Olive Brandon. Should be.
Okay. Okay, Chris, we're gonna combine here. Can you name the top 2 contributors that have donated to your campaign, and did Bob DePalma endorse either Chris or Kevin?
You're asking me first?
Yes.
So far, nobody has donated to my campaign. And Bob is willing to endorse.
Yeah, I can make it simple. My mom and my mother-in-law, they were both very hard to get.
I asked them, they said no.
Okay, Kevin, we're gonna start with you on this one. There's been talk that the township has signed a contract with the MSP for use of the new fire station. Is this true? And can you give us some of the details included in the?
I do not have that information.
I don't know if we signed it. I don't know any of the details of it. But I know that they're trying.
This is for everybody. So we're gonna start with Teresa. Please tell the Groveland residents whose of your endorsements have a financial interest in setting up shop here that requires a tax increase to residents.
The only person who's endorsed me officially is Pam Mazick, and I don't think she has any, no, I'm trying to think if anybody else officially endorsed me. My husband did.
Tough yet.
So just Pam, and no financial interest.
I guess the sheriff would be the only one, and I don't know how much of a financial interest that would be. That would be up to the residents to pass that millage. Otherwise, as far as businesses and things like that go, no, nothing.
No.
Ask this question. This is for the supervisors.
Why are you rubbing your head?
Yeah.
Embarrassing. It's not true.
Okay. So Kevin, you're gonna go first on this one. And the only reason I'm asking it is because it has been asked twice here.
How tall am I?
Do you believe the 2020 election was stolen?
Where is he? Where's Rob?
I'm taking the fifth.
Okay. Chris?
I don't know. You're talking about the one between Bob and Kevin, or?
No, I think that's probably wrong.
I know what we're talking about.
Oh, my election, yes, I do believe that was stolen.
Okay. Okay, this is the last one.
Ask a question.
What do you want to change versus what we do now? And we are going to start right down here with Jim and move on down the line.
Well, to be fair to Chris, I did steal his suggestion about more instantaneous communication when warranted. I'd like to see that come about. So in theory, everybody, if you want to be part of some manner of ASAP communication by email or text, we would like to develop a system here that would allow that if you wanted. I think the township runs pretty well. We're fiscally responsible, all pretty approachable. I can't think of anything immediately beyond that.
Lisa?
Communication is probably one of the big things. I think just getting, you know, an email blast or something like that, or apps that I think we all agree on that. And, you know, I'd like to see the rock snake actually happen out in the playground. And, I think maybe just, I wanted to do an open house out in the, Patriot Pavilion out back, since it's all nice and cleaned up and the playground's all revamped and safe, and, you know, we could do a little cookout or something and just have a fun activity. I think that would be nice. I'm sure there's a few things that, you know, we could think about. I mean, like, the building is supposed to be getting cleaned tomorrow, the exterior, so that's an improvement. There's probably more, but I can't think of them off the top of my head.
I always get asked by any place we go, what are you gonna change? I'll be honest with you, I don't know what all I'm gonna change, but I think this board has done a pretty good job. I mean, I think we all live here for one reason, we like it. Is there room for improvement? Absolutely, and we'll try to improve on it. I've always said I'm big on community involvement stuff, just like Teresa's idea. I love that. The meet and greet we had at the fire hall, awesome. I think we need to do more stuff like that. It's amazing to me how many people live a half mile from their neighbor or across the street for 10 years and have never met. I want to bring this group together. But as far as saying there's a lot of changes that need to happen here, there's not a lot of wholesale changes that need to happen here. We are all living here for one reason, because we love it. We just need to keep moving forward and improving it.
One of the things that I could say that I'm probably better than Bob is doing is technology. So there's certain things that I'm used to doing every single day, as far as the social media, the texting, and I do all my banking online. I do everything online. And when I look at the township, the Teresa mentioned the app. My wife and I we talked to a young guy who's probably in his 30s. We talked about, you don't need a Facebook, you need an app. And we're looking, going, oh my God, are we that old? The app is now the thing versus Facebook, and it is. Now, would I be able to do an app? Probably. This is something I thought of? No, but there's a lot of young couples out there that would move in here, and they might. That's something we do. I always thought that our web page was burdensome. I have trouble finding things. Like I said today, I couldn't find the budget, and I kept looking at these keys. There's more on there than I thought, but that needs to be, just make it faster, make it more information all the time up there, update every single day. And maybe it already is. I just am not seeing it. So there's just little things like that you look and thought, you're used to doing it every day, and it's not there, it's not available. Let's make it.
So I guess I'm in kind of a unique position because I've only been in the clerk position instead of deputy for, I don't know, just shy of a year, I guess. So I have found that this last year, I'm consistently finding like, oh, we should do this and we should do this. And that is not saying that anything was wrong before, but, you know, as was mentioned, there's always room for change and newness. I have actually looked already into a couple of apps and a newsletter that would be published and mailed out quarterly, free, which is also bonus. So still gathering some information. Certainly the board has been talking about that the last couple of months. I think that would be huge. I am on the left half, we're gonna go with, of the township compared to the right half. The right half gets a newspaper of publication. They get the Citizen. The left half does not. And since the first day that I started here, I recognized that that was a problem. It's really hard to communicate with half of our township because we don't have that ability. Unless you pay for it or opt to pay for it, it doesn't come to your home. So that has been a big thing that I've been working on for a while. And certainly, again, we've been talking about some other strategies to improve that. But I will tell you, a lot of the things that I have found to change have been very internal, just little things here and there, even with, you know, just trying to follow through with some of those things on our budgets that have been around for a long time, but just we haven't made progress.
So someone did ask me to give a brief overview of the senior center and what services they offer in Tupelo. I don't care where you live. You can live in Timbuktu, but if you're visiting, You're welcome to the senior center. We're open Monday through Friday from 8 to 4. We have bingo. We offer transportation services that include the village of Ortonville, Brandon Township, the Brandon School District, part of Groveland Township. We have a lot wider range than WODA and NODA. We go to St. Clair Shores, we go to Sterling Heights, we go to Farmington Hills, we go to Commerce Township, we go to Genesee County. So we don't have the restrictions that they have. So, and all you have to do is, as soon as you get an appointment, call, because our buses do fill up fast. We do day trips, in fact, tomorrow. We are taking 2 buses to Soaring Eagle Casino. So.
Are they full?
The seniors like their day trips, and they need to go on day trips because they don't all drive, they can't drive. But yet they still need the socialization, and this gets them out to talk to people that they may not know or make new friends. And when you are ready for your newsletter, talk to me because I get mine done printed for free.
Oh, I will, yeah. Oh, that's
If
great.
we can mail it out, but
Yeah.
you know, that's in our budget, but.
Wonderful.
And we have all kinds of activities at the senior center. If you are wanting a newsletter, you can go on the Brandon Township website, click under senior center, and then click on the newsletter, and the newsletter will come up. Or I can email it to you, or we can scan it to you. So just give me a call at the center, and then there most days. And something. So.
2 minutes. Thank you. Thank you, Faye. I just want to say thank you to our residents and some of your residents for coming, because I think this was really helpful. Thank you very much. And that petition that y'all talked about, if we haven't signed it, does someone have it?
I have one in my car right now.
Okay,
Or I
because
go.
if
I
anyone would
my
like
car
to
in
sign
my
that
car.
petition, and it has to be done by the end of the month, right?
I think that.
I think they have to receive it by the end of the month.
Right.
Oh, there's one over there.
Robin? I don't, these aren't the best.
Candace here.
Cheers.
One of their favorite president, they find.